Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Lily.
Welcome and thank you for attending. My name is Sean Ewart. I'm the Director of Member Engagement at the Spondylitis Association of America. SAA Storytellers, Your Stories on Stage, is a virtual community storytelling show that is the extension of the community stories featured in our news magazine, Spondylitis Plus. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Lily, who has helped make this special space possible. Now, we're gathering here tonight live to celebrate the spondylitis community and the healing power of story. We will hear stories from Gail Wright, Casey Cornelius, Danielle Wright, Jed Finley, and Brandon Robert. Now, it was a total honor to work with each of our 5 storytellers previously in our SAA online studio. And tonight, I will be hosting those sessions and sharing a little more about each storyteller. So please comment before, during, and after the story in the chat. So since our founding in 1983, the Spondylitis Association of America, SAA, has been the face, the voice, and the leading nationwide nonprofit organization educating, empowering, and advocating for people living with spondylitis and related diseases. So through our extensive work with our patients and medical community and partners, we provide information and resources to help people impacted by the disease live better lives and champion research to find a cure. And SAA has many resources. We have a great website, and there's a link in the chat with more information. Okay, so let's get started, all right? Our first storyteller tonight, so happy to introduce her, Gail Wright. Now, Gail is a support group leader in Chicago and a teacher of students who are deaf or hard of hearing. She's been teaching in a variety of settings for 34 years. Gail was diagnosed with AS in January of 2014. She enjoys exercising, hiking, being outdoors, especially in the mountains, gardening, and being with great friends. She has an amazing, supportive husband and 2 great kids. Let's hear her story.
Bones or no bones? The new Puxatawny Phil of this generation is a pug named Noodle. Every morning on TikTok, 14-year-old Noodle the pug is lifted up out of his fluffy dog bed by his owner. If he flops over, it's a no bones day. If he stands up tall, it's a bones day. No bones means take care of yourself, lay low. Bones days, go forth and conquer the world. Aside from the questionable choice of determining how I approach my day based on Noodle the pug, this has recently become even more challenging as systemic inflammation caused by my ankylosing spondylitis has now caused severe dry eye, which greatly affects my vision. Living with AS is as random as Chicago weather. In the same day, you can be at a level 10 pain and later down to a 1. My AS body seems to do really well and be functional until I completely herniate a disc. My body blows the disc to the point that the vertebrae has 0 cushion left and crushes nerves. My past disc ruptures have left me with minimal feeling in my big toe on my right foot. This makes it much easier to tolerate pedicures when they take up those sharp tools. I don't feel a thing. Friday the 13th, March 20th. Teachers were told to grab our laptops and go home for about 2 weeks until this COVID thing calmed down. Little did we know. 2 weeks later, I stood up from the couch to get my first cup of coffee. Pop! And that excruciating pain that comes from blowing a disc. Knees buckle, electric shock runs through my body. I managed to get to the kitchen for the much-needed cup of joe before crawling up the stairs to tell my husband that I know I'm once again in physical trouble. Having been down this road before, we had a pretty good idea of where this was heading. I knew I was going to be in for a series of doctor's appointments, the spine surgeon, imaging, pain management, primary care, to clear me for the surgery and eventually PT. Going to the grocery store and meal planning would fall on my husband. I did call my hair colorist because you cannot go into surgery and have friends bring you meals with 2 inches of bad roots. Plus, she makes house calls. Not only am I unstoppable, but I'm an animal lover and have rescued quite a few animals over the years. March 20th, we had one dog, our beloved little Shih Tzu mix. She's either a Pooh Shits or a Shih Tzu. Since she's now 13 years old, we decided it was time to rescue another dog. Did you try to rescue a dog during a global pandemic? Everyone was adopting dogs. After many applications and failed attempts, the universe worked for us. It's June, and our town was hosting a gay pride parade. Due to the pandemic, the parade shifted to a new format where you drive all over town to see the decorated homes. Our town came alive with rainbow balloons and flags. DJs, drag queens, decorated cars were everywhere. Parade, June 10th. 7th back surgery, June 11th. I was adding to my chain of lumbar fusions. This surgery would have me fused L2, 3, 4, and 5. I kind of wondered, am I going to be able to bend over and tie my shoes? As we were following the map to see all the homes, we saw a friend who does doggy foster and care and rescue with a sign in her yard, puppy available for adoption. I yelled to my husband, stop the Jeep! If you know anything about Jeeps, the only way to drive them in the summer is naked. No, not that kind of naked, Jeep naked, doors and roof off. We pulled over and I jumped out of the Jeep and grabbed that puppy. We signed some papers and adopted our new puppy. She was 6 weeks old and would need to stay in her foster care for another couple weeks, which was a good thing as my surgery was the next day. Now let's go back to the coffee, couch, and popping incident. By early June, I was confined to my recliner within an arm's reach of my much-needed cocktail of medications. I used a whiteboard to create a schedule of alternating pain meds, the nerve meds, the muscle relaxants, because you can't keep track. That trusty lazy boy recliner becomes the only place I can survive when I'm in this state. This surgery was different than the others. This time, my husband was instructed to give me a kiss goodbye in the hospital lobby. He was not by my side as I was rolled into the surgical suite. He asked me, who's going to set up your phone charger? Who's going to put your surgery stuffed animal in your bed? Who's going to make sure your CPAP is set up? This time, he waited at home for the surgeon to call him rather than shake his hand and thank him for taking care of me in person. While I'm the one who lives with the AS body, my AS definitely affects my loved ones too. I'm laying in pre-op alone, thinking about Noodle. The irony of having another spinal surgery so that I can have more bones days was not lost on me. Success with back surgery is not given. My first lumbar fusion landed me in a rehab facility for a week. This time, I come home within 3 days feeling great, relieved that the excruciating pain I was in since March had subsided. I was left with just post-op surgery pain, but not that nerve-crushing pain that no matter what you do, you can't escape. With that relief, I wanted a play date with my puppy. My second day home from the hospital is filled with puppy kisses and snuggles. I spend most of my day laying on my screen porch with her napping on my tummy. Well, actually on top of my body brace or exoskeleton. My exoskeleton is this hard plastic brace that keeps your entire torso straight all the way to your hips. Comfort has nothing to do with this contraption. As the appointed puppy trainer, I have to figure out how to get down to the level of a 6-pound ball of fluff with 4-inch legs. I'm in the exoskeleton and I have to navigate life with no BLT, bending, lifting, or twisting, for 3 months. It does cross my mind that once I get down to the floor, will I have the strength to get back up? Be within reach of a piece of furniture at all times. I'm able to lower myself to my knees and begin to teach this puppy how to sit and come. That little puppy helped me heal from surgery, as well as become my guidepost as to how to behave in this crazy, mixed up, pandemic, politically divided world. My new companion doesn't see me as someone who needs help. She depends on me for reassurance, food, and love. Every time I enter the room, she greets me with unabashed enthusiasm. Her little tail wags so hard, it makes her whole body kind of hinge in the middle. There's no pity from her that I endure multiple surgeries or live with a systemic disease that requires me to take handfuls of pills twice a day. She thinks I'm perfect. I had become that crazy dog mom. I ended up on a website where I ordered my 2 dogs matching bandanas, definitely the pain meds. The dog bandanas arrived, and so did the answer to Noodle's prediction of how I should greet the day. The answer to life's questions came in a sticker included in the package of overpriced bandanas. It simply said, "Be the human your dog thinks you are."
Oh my gosh, I love your story so much, Gail. Thank you for telling it.
Thank you.
You know, I was so touched by your husband's presence in this story. I mean, what does he do for you every time you have a surgery or something?
He's my rock. He does everything for me. He's by my side. As I said, he literally sets up my room and makes sure that everything is organized and ready for me when I come back up. He also is my ears when we go to heavy appointments. I know this is going to be like a big diagnosis or reading of images. And sometimes, when you're in that much pain, it's hard to hear clearly. So he's the other ears. So he's my other person who sits with me through those big appointments. Obviously, he's my support. He also is my motivator on days when, you might have not like, oh my gosh, I need a surgery type of situation, but when you're in a little bit of flare, your tendency is to want to just curl up and do nothing, where actually that's so counter to what you should do. For me, and a lot of ASers, movement is the key to success. So he might, even though I might be like, I'd rather just curl up and do nothing, he'll be like, hey, let's go over to our friend's house. So I have to get up, get dressed, and have some movement. So he keeps me going, which is awesome.
Well, someone else also gets you going.
Absolutely.
That little dog.
She absolutely keeps me going. And when there's days when it was like, oh, I got to get a walk in, and nope, I didn't do it for me. I did it for my little puppy.
Does your puppy get you going? Like sometimes you get out there and you're like, I'm so happy that she got me out of the house.
100% she is. She absolutely, because it's like I do a lot of training with her. She's really good. And so we'd go to obedience class. And so, there's some bending and moving, and I'm still working on her training. So I keep going longer than maybe just the short walk that I didn't want to really do. But she is my motivator. She's my buddy. She's my partner.
So speaking of dogs, I have to hear the story about how you came across Noodle, because I just love that your story is so dog-centered, because I love my dog too. So tell me about Noodle.
So this is so funny. We have a group chat because I'm an empty nester. So I have adult children who have others. So the great 6, as we call our group chat, the kids, adults, were typing in bones or no bones. Like, is it a bones day? And I'm looking at this group text going, what are you people talking about? And they're like, it's a TikTok thing, Mom. And I'm like, okay. So now here I am venturing into the world of TikTok. I'm a little sorry, but I did find Noodle, who is hysterical. So the kids keep me young, and that's where I bothered to go to TikTok.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Gail, your bravery and honesty and vulnerability in your story is so appreciated. I know it's going to help other people that are going through back surgery or anything like that. I can't thank you enough for being here. to tell your story on SAA Storytellers, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. It's my honor and privilege to tell it.
That was wonderful. A big thank you to Gail. Gail, I think you're here, so I think people have been chatting with you. So thank you so much for sharing your story and being part of SAA Storytellers. A little bit more about SAA. Gail is one of our support group leaders. So if you'd like to learn more about our support group program, just click on the link in the chat. All right, now our next storyteller, so happy to present to you, is Casey Cornelius. Now, Casey is the founder and president of For College for Life. He's a national voice, a leading national voice on topics of personal development and healthy masculinity. He travels the country physically and virtually, helping organizations and individuals, and I love this part, be extraordinary. Born in Cincinnati, Casey now resides in Michigan with his family, and in his spare time, he's a coach and a practitioner of the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So let's hear his story. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on SAA Storytellers.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I got to say, I think I first learned about you when you were shaving your beard for SAA as a fundraiser. Am I correct?
I think that's what it was. So it was an initial plug to raise money for the Spondylitis Association. And my beard at the time was about down to here. So it's a little less, prominent these days.
I know you do a lot for SAA, so thank you so much for everything you do for us. And I know you've lent your voice to some Twitter chats and some articles in Spondylitis Plus. But I'm extremely excited that you're on this show and that you have a story to tell.
Well, thanks, Sean. Again, thanks for having me, and thanks for thinking of me for this opportunity to share a message about caregiving to those AS warriors out there.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to get out of the way, and so we can hear your story.
So again, like Sean said, my name is Casey Cornelius, and my wife, Kristen, is an AS warrior. And I use that phrase specifically because if you're hearing my voice and you're watching this video and you too are a partner or caregiver or loved one of someone with AS, you know that they truly are warriors. So my wife and I have been together since 1996. We met when we were very young and fell in love and built a life together. And it wasn't until 2016 that she was first diagnosed with AS. And that was after a long period of frustration, a long period of trying to figure out the root cause of many of her pains and discomforts. And we had bounced around together to various doctors trying to get a handle on what was going on with her body. And we had a lot of frustration in the process. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit though. When I was in kindergarten, long before I knew Kristen or long before I thought about what it meant to be in love and to be a caregiver and partner in life, I was in kindergarten, the kindergarten class of a teacher named Miss Mary Lisa. And Miss Mary Lisa used to tell me to show patience. In fact, that was probably the most frequent thing she ever told me was, show patience, Casey. See, as a young person and now as a slightly older person, I can confess to you that I'm not blessed with the attribute of patience. If something's right, I want it to be done now. And if something's wrong, I want it to be fixed yesterday. So throughout my life, I've been trying to internalize Miss Mary Lisa's message to me to show patience. And as an adult now, I can say, I don't think that she was telling me to be patient, but to demonstrate patience in times in which it were particularly challenging for me to do so. Fast forward to 2016. In 2016, when Kristen was first diagnosed with AS, I, of course, did the thing that the most impatient people in the world do, and that was I immediately went out and tried to find every single resource related to this really odd-sounding condition to try to get my arms around it and try to help her heal, try to help her get better as quickly as possible. Hard pause. For those of you who've been on this AAS journey for a while, you will know how ridiculous it is for me to even say that I was attempting to help her heal or fix this as soon as possible. That's not a reality for most people with AS, of course. But in 2016, I tried to find every single blog article that I could. I tried to find every single video. I researched the SAA. I tried to read every single medical journal article related to this condition because I wanted to help her get fixed yesterday. So I would suggest things like changing her diet or getting more exercise or stretching or yoga or acupuncture, all these other kind of things, because I was impatiently trying to help. Fast forward a year and a half. In 2017, Kristen was hospitalized because of sort of ramifications of AS. We didn't understand completely what was going on at the time, but we knew that she was in a tremendous amount of pain, that her ability to walk freely, her ability to get up and down stairs was compromised. I didn't learn this, unfortunately, until I came home from a business trip. And she had hidden it from me. My partner, my loved one, had hidden this information from me that she was having trouble even getting up and down the stairs. So immediately we rushed to the hospital. She spent 4 days in the hospital. And that idea of showing patience was particularly tested there, because it had to show patience as it was related to her primary care, had to show patience as it was related to things like her medications, her rheumatologist, the insurance companies, and so forth, had to show patience as it related to getting her inflammatory markers down so that she could move more freely. We had to do things like walk up and down the hallway very, very slowly, but surely to get her back to normal. I had to show patience. And over these last couple of years, I don't know about you, but since March 2020, we've had to demonstrate some level of patience also. As the world has gone into initially shutdown and quarantine, and now modifications as it's related to the coronavirus, we've also had to do research and figure out what it means to be a person who's immunocompromised living in the time of a pandemic. And we've had to show patience. So if you're hearing my voice and my message today, if you're a caregiver, if you're a loved one, if you're a partner, my best advice to you is also to show patience. Now, this is going to take a lot of different forms. I kind of want to work through them just a little bit here for just a moment. The first one is, I would like you to do your very best to show patience with your loved one, the person who's the AS warrior in your life. If you haven't realized this already, I'm going to say something that's incredibly obvious. This condition doesn't work on any time schedule. It's not beholden to any planned events or to any calendars. There will be good days and there will be bad days. And most of the time I have found that the bad days are unexpected. Meaning you might go to sleep the night before and have plans for the next day and wake up and realize that plans need to change. Show patience. As your AS warrior is dealing with their medical condition, they might interact with a lot of doctors, healthcare providers who might not understand the condition or the symptoms. They might be told things either directly or indirectly, like, you don't look very sick. Show patience. It's a frustrating process. It's also one that feels incredibly helpless. Show patience. Show patience with those medical providers, with insurance companies, with all the people that you're going to have to interact with throughout the course of this journey with AS. Show patience with your loved one's family, with their friends, with their co-workers, with their employers, because they're going to have to figure out how to interact with your loved one as well as it relates to this condition and their various strengths and limitations on any given day. Show patience. And finally, and the message that I want to deliver most directly to you is this: show patience with yourself. While you might not feel the pain related to AS, you certainly are on this journey as well. You're a co-warrior, let's say, and there will be times in which you will feel burdened. There will be times in which you feel frustrated. There will be times in which you feel helpless. There will be times in which that you want to do more. But the one thing that you can do consistently over and over and over again is show patience. How we respond is the most important thing. It's truly the only thing that we can control. And if Miss Mary Lisa were here, she would be proud of us for trying to demonstrate something that is really, really tough. Show patience.
Oh, Casey, that was amazing. That was so wonderful. You know, I think Miss Mary Lisa would be very proud of you.
I sure hope so. It's one of those things where it's easier said than done, right? So anyone who's watching this video is probably thinking, yeah, show patience. Yeah. It's something that has to be a practice. It has to be something that we just effort to do each and every day.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sure it's something that other caregivers think. Like, what do you do to take care of yourself? Like, who's your caregiver?
That's a very good question. There are times, Sean, that I recognize the fact that I have to be selfish as well, right? So I have to take care of my body. I have to take care of my spirit. I have to get out and get exercise and eat right and take care of our daughter and all those other kind of things, because the old saying is true. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So in order to be good for other people, you also have to be good for yourself. So there are times that I have to say, okay, this is one of those selfish moments. It doesn't mean that I'm not there. It doesn't mean that I'm not present, but I also have to take care of number one as well.
I would love to hear a little bit about your business or your career, because I know you're very active on social media, and I see a lot of posts from your projects. Is there anything you would like to just add or outline? We'll also put a link in the chat to it.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if anyone would like to connect, I'm very easy to find online for sure. So I am the owner of a college speaking agency. It's called For College for Life. And we provide programs both in person and virtually, and consultations to campuses and organizations all across the country. Not only college organizations, but that's about 95% of what we do. We also work with some other major organizations out there. This year, we've worked with everybody from NASA to, I probably should stop there. That was probably took the cake. But I get to work with a whole lot of good people who share really, really important message. And I aspire to be the worst speaker on our roster.
That's always, I teach a lot of storytelling too, and I always aspire to be the worst storyteller in the room. So my goal is to make everyone.
You're in the right room. Yeah.
Right. I have one more question for you. So, like, how did you find SAA? Do you both remember?
I honestly, Sean, it was part of my story. I think it was in 2016 when we first received Kristen's diagnosis. This spondylitis that we had never heard of before, could barely spell it. And I remember it was, and I kind of share this story every once in a while, one of those 1 o'clock in the morning Google searches where it was just an attempt to find anybody out there. Because one of the things that I think is scary at the time as a loved one, but then also for those being diagnosed, is you're sort of given this diagnosis and sort of left to find out what it means on your own until you can start treatment plans accordingly. So I remember coming across the SAA in one of those 1 a.m. Google sessions where I found resources, I found blogs, I found all the social media information. And then I decided to myself, listen, if this is going to be part of our lives for the rest of our lives, I want to lend my voice and lend anything that I can to making sure that great organizations like yours can thrive and continue to be resources for everyone.
You and Kristen have been such amazing partners for SAA. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us, your story today, and all the good you're doing out in the world, and the amazing reminder to be patient. I'm learning from that too.
Do your very best.
Casey, thank you so much for being here today, and I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Many thanks to Casey for sharing that awesome story and spending time with me in the studio. I really, really appreciate it. And I see that the link is already in the chat for College for Life. So check it out and learn more about Casey. So let's move on to our next storyteller. Our next storyteller is Danielle Wright. Now, Danielle Wright is an optimistic and energetic soul constantly seeking out adventure. She lives in Colorado, with her life partner, Christian, and their dog, Ace, where she follows her passion of event planning and works for a university. At the age of 18, Danielle was diagnosed with AS, and she lives by the motto, "There is a way," and persists through challenges by finding adaptive measures met with fierce determination. Danielle also appreciates and shows constant gratitude to her superheroes, otherwise known as her support team. Let's hear her story.
I have a roommate that doesn't pay rent. Do you know who it is? My sharps container. You know, that annoyingly sturdy, bright red plastic needle deposit box. That obvious box that hangs in every doctor's office. He has seen my triumphs and sorrows, job changes, breakups, and new relationship. This sharps container is my most committed and unshakable relationship. But until I get an official diagnosis, he remains an unknown and future acquaintance. It all started in high school, pre-diagnosis. Mom is taking me to yet another doctor's appointment to try and piece together my symptoms. I feel like a puzzle without its centerpiece. Mom got out of the car first, anxious to meet the new specialist. For me, it's the umpteenth specialist. I slowly shuffle behind her, stubborn and delaying the inevitable round of needles, imaging, and shrugging of the doctor's shoulders. In 2018, along came my high school diploma, and then I also received my diagnosis of AS, but also an acceptance to college. Most college-bound kids are asked the important questions by their family. What dorm are you living in? What are you studying? How far is the dining hall? After AS came into my life, guess the questions I was asked. Do you have enough medical supplies? Have you found a rheumatologist? And my favorite, how far is the health center? They thought I was going to be giving the campus tours. Fear not, despite my new diagnosis, I was still a stubborn teenager choosing the farthest college possible just to go away. I can still hear the conversation between my mom and I. Mom asked, "Danielle, don't you want to stay home?" I responded, "No." "Why?" She said, "Because your rheumatologist and me are here in Chicago." I responded quickly, "I'm fine. I'll find a new one." Off I go. The fear and worry for my parents is palpable. As the youngest child, I know my soon-to-be empty nester parents are concerned. Ecstatic to be on campus, I move into my dorm with my mini fridge. I think I'm the cool roommate. I imagine how great it will be to store beer, but when I opened it, all that appeared were my biologics. In the quiet moments with my sharps container staring through the hinges of the dorm-issued wardrobe, I can imagine what he is thinking, wanting to tell me that tossing back beer will cause inflammation. Like a grandparent wagging their finger, he says, "That's gonna leave a bruise." Typically, college kids wake up with bruises from drunken stupidity. As an AS patient, I wake up with bruised joints not only from flare-ups, but then also from booze. I remember the voice of my sharps container preaching, "Alcohol is inflammatory." For those reasons, he feels like a judgmental roommate. But then he is also a helpful friend that reminds me that AS cannot be ignored. In fact, my sharps container is the distant echo of my parents, reminding me to keep up with my rheumatologist appointments, connect with friends who also have chronic illnesses, but also to not stop dreaming and achieving my goals. In the summer during college, my drive to achieve is fulfilled when I get an acceptance letter for an internship at an amusement park in Florida. While packing the essentials like sunglasses, bathing suits, and suntan lotion, my persistent roommate asked to join the luggage pile. Begrudgingly, I added my sharps container to the group. He needed to be the last to go into my car and the first to arrive. As the 2 achy days of driving concludes, his thick plastic is warm in the Florida sun as we return to our new home. My roommate took residence under my bedside table, visible to any guests who enter our room. His bright red plastic was hard to ignore and a reminder that my hardest days of living with AS are inescapable. My independence is tested at this internship. Between bruised knees, medicine-causing side effects, and advocating for myself, along with many of the other obstacles that AS patients face. The joy of the guests surrounding me was a stark contrast to my struggle. When I came home from tough work days, my plastic roommate reminded me that AS was persistent and I need to take care of myself. I did not have my parents at arm's reach. I needed to restart searching for a rheumatologist. My mental strength to transition to semi-adulthood and take care of myself physically became rewarding. Soon, with the right mixture of medication, sunshine, and some parental encouragement, I feel unstoppable, diving into warm springs, gallivanting through the parks, and exploring the untouristed parts of Florida turned into the best 6 months of my life. I came to the realization that maybe I need to grow as a young adult with a chronic illness as much as I need to grow professionally. Flash forward to 2019 and post-college, I'm feeling great and ponder the thought of breaking up with my Sharps container. I kick him out, but he lands with a thud into the moving truck on our way to Colorado. I moved to my 5th state as a full-fledged adult, and I am now responsible for my own health insurance and come to learn what having a team of doctors means. Building my medical cheerleaders after rebuilding in all locations previously has left me with skills I did not know would come with my AS diagnosis. Using my resources to surround myself with excellent care is a critical component to being a healthy AS patient. My ability to advocate for myself has led to some jaw-dropping Colorado views. Don't get it twisted, though. Some of those views are at the end of a leisurely quarter-mile stroll due to the exhausting AS pain. Other times, it is at the end of a 5-mile hike, fit for a mountain goat, not a Chicago-raised flatlander. I've come to terms with having AS and a Sharps container. I have caretakers, or as I like to call them, superheroes, who help me. They ease troubles, soothe aching body parts, and dry frustrated tears. My Sharps container, like AS, isn't always visible, sometimes hidden for months at a time while I test out a new drug and then comes back into my life. A reminder that AS doesn't define me, but occasionally does a check-in. As I tell this, my plastic roommate is taking up space out of sight. I know that he could re-enter my life at some point, maybe when I least expect it, or by invitation when I let my doctor know that my current medication is not working. Either way, he will have a place in every space I live, even if he isn't paying rent.
That was great, Danielle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh my gosh, how do you feel?
I feel great in more ways than one.
So tell me a little bit more about the skills that you've achieved after having AS. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole skill set that people just don't think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the words that comes to mind is persistence, not only in advocating for myself, but also in not letting my dreams and hopes go and always striving to be better and get better.
That transition from being under your parents' care to taking care of yourself it's pretty daunting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, being diagnosed at 18 and under my parents' roof and under their care was really comforting. And then now being an adult with my own roof and needing to take care of myself, it was quite the grow up.
Do you look at your AS differently now that you are more in charge of it and responsible for the care?
Absolutely. For a while, I was really sad and I was really mad. And now I think I achieve and set really tall goals for myself. Mm-hmm. And I say, I did that, but I also did that despite having AS.
Do you feel that, I hate to say it like this, but like the limits are actually good? Like, you know how far you can go now?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I know there's some things, like I'm a big bike rider and I know after a while my knees will just go, right? But that doesn't mean I can't have a good productive time within my limits, which is something I never thought before. I just was like indestructible. But knowing what my limits are, I feel like I'm actually better. I do a better job at what I'm doing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that continuing to be a healthy person with AS, but also, I know that I'm not going to go try the next crazy trick at the skate park, right? Like I have I have a really great life that I live within. I set my borders pretty far, but I live within what I'm capable of, and I feel successful doing that.
That's amazing. Danielle, you've shared such an important story about this bridge from teenhood to, young adult. And we don't hear it all the time. And it was so wonderful to hear what that transition was like and who helped you and how you felt. So I can't thank you enough for being part of SAA Storytellers and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. And thank you for being part of my superhero team.
Oh, thank you. That made my day. Thank you so much, Danielle, for sharing your personal story with such honesty and candor. It was so much fun working on it with you. And a big thanks to all of you for being here tonight. I hope you're having a good time and watching all these great storytellers. If you'd like to learn more about SAA Storytellers, Your Stories on Stage, or pitch us a story to tell one yourself, just click the link that's going to be in the chat. Now, our next storyteller is Jed Finley. I'm so excited to welcome him. Jed is also an SAA support group leader, like Gail, but he's in St. Louis and a teacher. He's been living with AS since 1994. He enjoys drawing, writing, and going on walks with his 2 dogs. And I just know you're going to love Jed's story. So let's hear it.
So here I am, 23 years old, surrounded by naked hippies, and about to launch myself off a 60-foot cliff. How did I get here? Well, it's the summer of 2004. I have 1 semester left of college before I'm thrown out into the real world. As Ellis Boyd Redding said in The Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying. I chose to spend this summer at the Homestead, my college's own hippie commune. I figured this is the best way to live or die trying. Either way, I was fine with the outcome. So in 1975, a college professor started this commune as an experiment to see if students could live completely off the grid, sleep in cabins, and grow their own food. 30 years later, this experiment is still going. More cabins have been built, solar power had replaced lanterns, and the school decided to install fire alarms, just in case. But other than that, not much had changed since 1975. Water comes from a well, showers were taken and collected rainwater that was heated by the sun, and when you had to go, you went to the outhouse. And this is where our story begins. The reign of the old ramshackle wooden outhouse had come to an end. It was time to upgrade to a new outhouse made from concrete and recycled materials. And here I am, the new guy. I need to pay my dues and earn my place at this commune. After all, my parents weren't hippies. I grew up in a very conservative town with a very conservative family, and for the most part, I was rather conservative at this time. If I was going to fit in, this was the time to do it. But my roommate thought I was crazy, and when he drove me out there, "You're not going to last out here," he told me. When he saw the living conditions, "Your body is too old." You see, in 2004, this was the time that my AS really started catching up with me. My back and legs started hurting, my energy was often low, and going to the bar was really my only plan of treatment. I saw this summer as an adventure, as an opportunity to treat my AS with clean living, including a healthy diet, exercise, no technology, no stress, and sometimes no clothes. Just me and 11 other Earth-conscious students. There was also like 7 feral cats living out there with us, and cats give me strength. But I was excited for building and gardening, and I hoped my AS would not be a problem. So the wooden frame of the outhouse had already been put up. All we need to do was mix concrete, dent some beer cans, and make bricks out of glass bottles. The process was simple. Layer of concrete, layer of beer cans, layer of concrete, layer of beer cans. Up and up and up we went. Eventually, we would add green and brown glass bottles to kind of create a cool effect when the sun came through. But before I knew it, I had finished an entire 3-foot by 7-foot wall all by myself. And I was ready to start another one. You know, you don't have to keep working, one of the more devout hippies told me while sipping a beer that would eventually go into our wall. If you want to quit, you can quit. Back then, I never quit. Once I started a project that I enjoyed, I always wanted to finish it in one go. Now, I'm really good. I enjoy this, I say with a smile, even though at this time my back was starting to hurt, but I did not want them to know. See, the year before was the first time I was called old man or old dude. It wasn't just because I was the oldest student at the school. I acted like an old man. I complained about my back, I walked slowly, and was constantly talking about the way things used to be. My AS, combined with this mentality, I started to psych myself into becoming 30 years older than I really was. Things needed to change, and at the homestead, I decided I was going to completely leave the old man behind. So this brings us back to the start of the story. 23 years old, surrounded by naked hippies, and about to fling myself off a 60-foot cliff. Sitting by last night's campfire with my favorite disabled cat. Hey, we're going to drive out to Black Hand Gorge to go cliff jumping. You want to come? Normally, my answer would be no. But I was young, kind of dumb, and was trying to ignore my AS. Absolutely, I say with completely false enthusiasm. Now, I'm picturing a certified cliff jumping site that has been cleared of all rocks and trees. What I find is a beautiful green pool and a cliff with plenty of rocks and trees. This location was clearly not sanctioned. Have you jumped from here before? Oh yeah, I did it last month. This girl of the group assured me. As long as you jump away from the edge, you'll be fine. So we climb up the side of this rock hill, ignoring the "no jumping" sign to the edge of the cliff. This is where some of the hippies took off their clothing. A tradition, I guess. Now, whether or not I participated in this part of the adventure, I'll leave to speculation. But seriously, what was I thinking? So one of the more experienced jumpers went first, and splash. Now, a splash is way better than a splat, so I figure I might as well jump. I'd regret nothing, I say as I fling myself off the edge. The fall was taking longer than expected, but it was also quick. I make my body as pencil thin as I possibly can, hands at my side, and into the water. Ouch! My hands burned from the impact of the water from that height. And my arms were forced over my head, and all I could see was green. Swimming up, and still swimming. How deep is this pool? I get to the top and find my sandals were floating on the surface, completely ripped off my feet by the impact of the water. This may be why the state park did not encourage jumping. Now, watching everyone else make their jumps, I feel young and alive. I've done something that I never would have done because of my AS, and I came out almost fine on the other side. I mean, remember, I regret nothing. After the endorphins wore off, I was reminded of my mortality and my inflamed joints. Now, you want to treat your AS, I recommend clean living, peace, and exercise. But jumping into water from 60 feet in the air, yeah, you might regret it.
Jed, that was fantastic. It was fantastic. I love this
Thank
story.
you.
Oh my gosh, I'm just over here like off camera laughing the whole time. So how many cats do you have?
Okay, so currently I have 2 cats, and one we rescued from Vietnam, and one we found in the woods, and he wouldn't leave us, so we just took him.
That works.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have to tell me more about this hippie commune. Like, how long were you there?
I was there for the May to the end of August.
Oh, that's a commitment. That's a huge
Yes.
commitment. Oh
Well,
my God.
you know what? It was out there. I had visited out there one time, and I just loved the vibe of the place. Everyone was just so earthy and, just kind of calm and cool. And I was like, yeah, I want to try this out. Plus, I had no interest in going home that summer, so I just wanted to experience this. And I figured summer was the best time to do it because there was no way I was going to survive out there in the winter with my joints. So,
So did that commune change you? I mean, were you different from how you arrived?
yeah, I absolutely. I mean, not only did my hair grow longer, kind of like where it is now, but much longer. Yeah, I went out there kind of knowing what to expect, but I really did not expect just how much I would absolutely love that place. It was just so calm. Like, we would just sit around the campfire every single night, drum circles, of course, it is a commune. But yeah, just hanging out, and, we would sleep in these cabins, and the cats would be walking all over the place, and, cooking vegan over a wood burning stove. I mean, that was an experience. I've never taken 3 hours to make stir fry, but there you go.
There it is. Have you ever been back?
I went back right before I was married. My fiance and I traveled out there because I just had to show her the location, and we went out there. It actually was great. It was probably 1 or 2 people I knew who were still out there because there were some people who, long after graduation, never left. But they were building a brand new cabin using truck tires and as the foundation. And it was this beautiful, project they were working on. But I got to brag, say, hey, I'm Jed Finley, and I built the outhouse.
Oh, and you know what?
That's amazing.
That is the perfect place to leave this, on the word outhouse. Jed, thank you so much for being part of SAA Storytellers. Thank you for sharing your story and being so brave. And I really appreciate everything you do for SAA.
Well, thanks for having me, Sean. It was really a pleasure to share my story.
Thank you so much, Jed. It was so much fun working with you on that story. Thank you for your wonderful sense of humor, and thanks so much for being a part of SAA Storytellers. I want to quickly share that SAA doesn't receive any government funding. Funds received help us sustain our programs, like our nationwide support groups. You can also volunteer. You can give a gift in memory or tribute or someone. There's so many different ways to support SAA. You can just contact us. We're going to put a link in the chat, and you can learn more ways to help us and fulfill our mission. All right, we are ready for our final storyteller of the night. I am so excited to introduce Brandon Robert. Brandon lives with AS in Washington State with his wife and his son that he loves dearly. He is currently on a full-scale journey to discover what his true limits are despite living with AS. Hopefully, seeing his journey into the unknown will inspire people to start their own. Remember, what stands in the way becomes the way. Let's hear Brandon's story.
The clock on my phone illuminates 4:37 a.m. Today, walking will be a struggle, let alone running for 3 hours. The quick yet thorough assessment that I do each and every morning upon waking reveals the same pain and stiffness that I wake to each and every day. Mornings are the hardest, I mutter, a trusty old catchphrase I've said to myself for the last 7 years as I move to the kitchen and start my rituals. Coffee pot on, organize the kitchen, empty the dishwasher, lay on the floor and stare at the ceiling as I contemplate my next move. AS has a way of entwining itself into just about everything you do. Breakfast, pills, running clothes, more rituals. My son has always been an early riser. I sit to put my shoes on, as I always do, and from the dimly lit living room I hear, "Dad, if it hurts so bad, why do you go?" A quick response from yours truly that requires little to no thought. "I have to, my son. One day you'll understand." We have one very simple rule in our home, no lying. We do not shelter him from anything. It's a tough world out there. He is keenly aware of the problems AS causes me. He can sense when I'm in more pain than usual. He has watched me almost his entire life take an extremely hot bath every night, followed by laying on an ice pack for at least a half an hour, usually more, every single night. This is AS. I put my watch on. This reveals two very important things to me. One, that this workout is happening regardless of how I feel. Two, that it is still very early. Outside, it is cold and rainy, as per usual in Washington in January. I pride myself on arriving to the trail first. To me, this represents that I want this more than anyone else. Warm up done, water, check, food, check. From here on out, it is one foot in front of the other for as long as it takes, no matter the pain. If I can move, I do what needs to be done. My headlamp does a decent job of lighting the way, but you have got to watch your step. There are lots of roots and mud, and one slip or trip, and I could be crawling my way back to the car. It's funny, yet true. It takes me at least 45 minutes to get my body warmed up, although my mind has been ready since 4:37 this morning. The sunrise casts rays of light through the thick evergreen branches, and the rain has subsided and been replaced with wind. I hate the wind with a passion. I'd rather run in a torrential downpour than the wind. Oh well, we do what needs to be done, right? Past the boat ramp, through the rolling hills, and beyond the lake is where the real work begins. The business end, as I like to call it. Miles of climbing through rocky, rooty, technical terrain. I've adopted the harder the better mentality towards all things AS. My watch pings and brings me back to reality. It's time to eat. I pull out a goo gel, chocolate sea salt with 35 milligrams of caffeine, my favorite. With sticky hands, I put the empty goo wrapper in my sock and push on. Every mile on the mile, I stop, bend down, and take a bit of pressure off my back for just a moment. Rituals. The searing pain in my lower back, a constant reminder of my passenger, always present and always along for the ride. I never feel alone. I maintain a running, no pun intended, dialogue with my AS, constantly talking to it as if it were a living, breathing thing sitting right beside me. It has taken on a life of its own. Not today, I say, and push on. I can hear the waterfalls now, just about halfway. The freezing, rushing water is oddly inviting. I wonder what it would be like to be swept over and away, never to occupy this body again. It's broken anyways, I tell myself. It's not broken. Look how far it's taken you. Be grateful. You have a son. You have no choice. Thankfully, my watch pings again. Time to eat. And I can tell it's time because the negative thoughts that invaded my mind just seconds ago always happen right before I need to eat. They are fleeting. Another goo wrapper into the sock. At the halfway mark, I stop to assess the damage. Brief yet thorough. Everything seems to be functioning as usual. Not great. I fall into a flow state, moving effortlessly through narrow bridges made from old 2x4s, low-hanging branches, and fallen moss-covered trees. I push harder uphill, seeing just how high I can get my heart rate, knowing full well I will pay for this later. I always pay the price, in some fashion or another. You have to pay to play. Will I be unable to walk in the morning, I wonder? Am I doing long-term permanent damage? We've been through this time and time again, Brandon. You've decided to live your life on your own terms. You're the one who defines what you are capable of, not an MRI and not a doctor. I'm writing this story. My watch pings. You guessed it. It's time to eat for the third and final time. Thank God. I was spiraling into the most negative place I can go. Thoughts of the progression of this disease. Out loud, I say to myself, as I've done countless times before, if I'm progressing, this disease isn't. End the story. Mile 8 through 11 pass in a blur of pine cones, leaves, and roots. Tunes cranked, I'm free. Most likely the closest I'll ever get to living pain-free. I swear, the further I go, the better I feel. The business end complete, I crossed paths with the lake for the second time this morning. The rain has joined with the wind in an all-out effort to make this as miserable as possible. You'll have to do better. It will take a lot more than that to break me. I have the heart of a warrior, I tell myself. Constantly in a ready state, I taunt the coiled-up snake living inside me that is AS. Will I get bit today? I have no idea of ever knowing. And the further I go, the less and less I care. I leave it all out there always. I have no choice. I must stay one step ahead of this disease. This is my life's work, my legacy. For if my son ever runs into this genetic disease, he will know what to do and how to do it. He grew up watching me. He'll know exactly what he is capable of accomplishing in this life. The path cleared for him, all he has to do is hop on. It is my duty and my responsibility to handle the trial and error for him. No one has shown me the way, but I will show him. Hopefully it never comes to that. But like I said before, it's a cruel world out there. Past the boat ramp, over the 3 bridges, flying. Well, to me at least. I'm not fast, but I'm strong. AS does slow me down. I don't have much of a choice when it comes to that. However, it will not stop me. I round the corner and am greeted by a full parking lot. I was here first. How far? I hear from the living room. Inquiring minds want to know. 14.18 miles, my son. It was hard too. Windy, rainy, and cold. Just the way I like it. The harder the better, right? My son will always have some memory of these Sunday mornings. He will always have a brightly painted picture of just what exactly it looks like to move through adversity with grace and grit. He will know the power that exists within our minds. My legacy. I will leave you with this. As much as I curse AS on an almost daily basis, I've finally arrived at a place of gratitude. For if it weren't for this disease, I don't know that I would be on the path to reaching my full potential. I don't know that I would know what it feels like to truly test the human spirit, which begs the question, is this a blessing or a curse? To quote Marcus Aurelius, what stands in the way becomes the way. End of story.
Brandon, that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, your story is so compelling. That run it's amazing. I felt like I was there.
That's man, that's what I tried to do after our first little interview we had and you helped me. I just tried to like really make it so people could like feel like they were there. So
absolutely. Hey, listen, I want to jump over to your Instagram. When you first reached out to me about doing a story and I looked at your Instagram, I was so touched by that. Is it a photo or a video of you trying to get out of bed?
There's like a cover photo of me trying to get out of bed, and then if you like swipe or whatever they do on Instagram, there's like a couple videos of me getting up and then like walking to the closet to get my sweatpants.
It's just so touching to see what I think your caption is like, this is what AS is, or this is me getting out of the bed or something like that.
Yeah.
It says so much in so little. Have you received a lot of feedback about it?
Yeah, actually like a surprising amount of just people like saying, like thanking me for sharing that because it made them feel like they aren't alone. And I have to thank one of my good friends, Matt. I called him that morning. I was supposed to run probably 13 or 14 miles with him that morning. And I called him and I was like, dude, I can't even get out of bed. I'm not going to be able to, I can't run today. And the first thing he said was, you need to film it.
Mm.
You need to film it. You need to show people. And so I filmed it and I just put it on there. I just was like, well, I mean, this is what it really looks like. So it was really cool to get a lot of like good feedback and just like people saying like, thank you. So it was cool.
I've shared it already. Now that we've met, I've shown other people.
Oh, right on. Right
absolutely. On. So now that I know about it, I'm excited to share with people so they can really like, folks that are just newly diagnosed to see what, this is what it looks like. Yeah.
And I mean, not every day is like that for me, but if you have AS or you're newly diagnosed or whatever, I mean, you're probably going to have days like that in your future. And I have learned that as the time goes on, the easier it gets mentally to deal with it. The pain is still the same, but, and it's just like when I started my Instagram page, I was like, dude, I just want to give like people like a little bit of hope here that like you can still live a big life, even though you have these days where like you have a hard time moving. So that was really my goal. So,
well, thanks for your vulnerability and honesty with that picture. Cause it's really, really helpful.
Oh, no problem. Because when I start, like, I'm not a social media guy and like, I'm not into that world, but when I started this page, I was like, I'm going to be transparent with this. I'm not going to try and like look cool on Instagram. I'm going to I'm going to show people what this looks like, and I'm going to talk about what it does. And like, there's no easy answers, and you won't find any shortcuts on my page. It's just hard work and like a mindset. So
Great. Hey, listen, I have one more question for you. So how long have you been a tattoo artist?
I have been tattooing for right before our son was born, and he'll be 10 in May. And before I was a tattoo artist, I was a firefighter paramedic, and I left that career to become a tattoo artist. And like, I taught myself how to draw, and kind of taught myself how to paint. And I just kind of went full in, and now it's how we pay the bills. It's been quite a journey, but that's a long answer. It's about 10 years.
Your work is really wonderful. So I'll be sure to put a link in the chat during the show so people can learn more about you.
Oh yeah, cool. I have the Instagram for my tattooing, and the Instagram for kind of the AS, like fitness stuff, whatever you want to call it. So
awesome. Brandon, thank you so much for being here on SAA Storytellers and sharing your story and being so open and honest. I really appreciate everything you've brought to this.
Oh, no, thank you guys. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to working on more projects with you. And thank you for helping me kind of write this story. So it's been a real pleasure.
It's been fun.
It's been fun.
All right. Well, we're going to see you soon. And thanks again.
Okay. Thank you.
Big shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much for all of that and your honesty and your candor. And in fact, all of our storytellers, Gail Wright, Casey Cornelius, Danielle Wright, Jed Finley, and of course, you just heard from Brandon Robert. Thank you so much for trusting me with your stories to help create them and make them special for this night. Now, we're going to put another link in the chat for a future show. If you want to save your seat, that link will be there. And thank you so much for helping us create community and empathy through the power of story. I love storytelling. It's been so much fun sharing it with you tonight. Also, another big thank you to Lily for helping make this space possible. I hope you will consider telling a story with SAA. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.